I am Vanessa Martinez. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Alrighty. And what do you prefer to go by, Miss?
You can call me Beth.
All right, Miss Beth. So I saw through your paperwork that you wanted to come in and have a counseling session about something that you were ambivalent about. And so what is that? What is bringing you in today?
Well, I do have a struggle with deciding what I ought to do. And that is that I'm going to school to get my master's in social work. Uh, and but I'm not sure after I graduate what I should do. Whether I should try to continue with like getting my LCSW, whether I should work, or whether I should return to being a stay-at-home mom.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a lot of options as to what you could do when you finish with school. Sounds like you've put some thought into your choices. Is there a choice that you're leaning more towards?
Not for different reasons. I have different things that I'm leaning towards. Um, if it were just about money, obviously the going from LCSW and working full time would be it. But I also, again, like I said, have 6 kids, and I feel like it might not be good for them for me to be gone. Like I'm already gone, so it would not be good for them for me to like forever be gone.
That is very understandable, and it sounds very tough to have to go through and consider because it sounds like you're trying to prioritize providing for your family, but you're also trying to provide, and nourish their well-being. It sounds really tough. How important is it to you on a scale of 1 to 10 for you to be at home with your children?
Um, there is not much I put above my kids. Like even this going to school, I did because I feel like it will benefit my kids. So probably my if it's just a question of my kids' well-being, it would be like a 9 or a 10.
Right. And how important is it to you on a scale of 1 to 10 for you to be the one providing monetarily?
We're financially, we're okay. My husband fortunately has a job that covers all of our needs. And I think that's a distinction because it covers all of our needs, but it is a little bit of a tight squeeze some months. Like obviously we're not putting much into savings.
I understand, and that sounds like it's frustrating because you're at a crossroads of wanting to go ahead and help support your husband monetarily for all that he's already provided for you and your family. But it also sounds like you acknowledge your sacrifice that you've made in your by continuing your education, also as well for the benefit for your children, but you're also having to sacrifice the time with them.
Yeah, and I don't think it's me as much as it's the kids. We have already been able to see the alteration in the kids from me being home to me not being home, and the other changes that had to take place for that to happen.
What would you say has changed?
Um, oh, quite a bit. So some changes. Well, first off, we had to bring my mother in, so that there would be an adult with the kids. My youngest was only 3 when we decided for me to go to school, and so could not be left home alone, obviously, and is not in school yet. And so my mother lives with us. That was a huge change. It changed our house. It's changed our eating. It's changed how we interact with each other. And then also with me being gone, um, just the kids are much more, they argue more, they have more acting out behaviors. And the youngest 2 are much more clingy when I am home, and much more upset about the sacrifices that they have to make.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of change that has taken some time for the children to adjust to. And it sounds like they're still adjusting to that change.
Yeah. They are, even though it's been a semester and a half, because I think they finally got used to me being gone with school, but now I'm gone and they don't have Saturdays either because of the internship. So even though I've been going to school for a while, it's been another adjustment.
Okay, and in a perfect world where if you could go to sleep and wake up tomorrow and things would have changed, what would be different?
Perfect world is in like 2 semesters when I graduate. And that's kind of, I think that's the issue because then, like, do I go to work? Because now I just put our family like $30,000 in debt for what? And if we have that student loan, then is my husband's job still, especially with the kids becoming teenagers and eating more and not being able to wear hand-me-down clothes as much, is it still going to be enough? And so in a perfect world, well, in a perfect world, I work, but only part-time while the kids are in school. That would be my ideal. I'd be able to work and make a little money, enough to cover some extras, but I would still be able to be home. So when the kids were leaving to school and coming home from school, they would have somebody they knew cared and was noticing them and noticing what they were doing and in a loving way, guiding them.
So for me, it sounds like you brought up a few more concerns with what may be going on at home, with the children having to adjust with being with your mom versus being with you. And it sounds like you're concerned with what's happening when you're not around. And in a perfect world, you would be around every moment that you could spend with the children. Of course, it's mandatory they go to school, so they have to be
Right.
away from you for that
Right.
time.
Well, I think for it's not that I want to be with my kids all the time, although there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
I would want them to know that I'm there for them.
Okay. Do you feel like being away from your children, they might not know that you're there to turn to?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that happens a lot, especially I mean when you're not there, then how do they know? Like this I think that comes with maturity, recognizing that a person can care about you when they're not around. And it takes maturity to understand their own feelings enough to be able to express it in words for like a text message or a phone call. And, if they get injured and you're home, but you're busy doing homework, then it is harder for them to be like, well, she must not care because here she is at home. And yet, all she does with me is, like make sure I got my teeth brushed and make sure I got my homework done or my piano lessons done. And she's not actually spending any fun time. Like, so it's not, I think that they would think I don't care about them. It's that they would not feel the love, the enjoyment portion of it.
Well, looking back at prior to you starting school, have you done anything to change the way that you provide care and nurturing to your children when you are with them?
Yeah, I'm tired. I don't cook as much as I used to. I yell more quickly um, than I used to. And I don't, like we used to do one-on-one time, which is, a kid would get half an hour of time where it was just them and either me, like one week it would be me, the next week it would be my husband. And I don't do that anymore. My husband's the only one that does one-on-one time now because I'm either sleeping or I'm doing homework or I'm cleaning house or cooking. And quite frankly, all the other time is putting out fires from arguments that the kids are having with each other or arguments that they're having with my mom or other discontent that I'm walking around resolving.
So it sounds like you have many roles in your home. It sounds like when you stop doing one thing, you have to do another. If we were to look at that differently, Would you say that in these acts of service that you provide for your family, would you say that that does provide love to them as well?
I would say it does, and I believe it does. It does, because quite frankly, if I didn't love them, I would be like, well, shoot, this is hard. Let me move to Mexico. But their perception of what love is a child's perception, and a child's perception of love is yummy food and time and play and
Mhm.
gifts. Having somebody wash your laundry does not look like love to a kid.
Correct. I
So,
understand. Um, so then if there was something that you could change in your weekly routine to be able to provide maybe quality time with your family as a whole, maybe whether it's a movie night, do you think that would make an impact on how the children feel?
we on Sundays do games, so I don't do schoolwork on Sundays. Um, so on Sunday we do games. So once a week we do. We have a fun time. But I feel like that's a temporary solution, not a permanent one. I don't want to continue this forever. Like this is was meant to be a temporary sacrifice on behalf of the whole family, including the kids. And and so I don't want to have it be always that even after I graduate.
Okay, so it does sound like you've put some thought into ways that you could try to, I don't want to say substitute, you know, actions of love, but you have
Right,
found a way to provide meaningful interaction with your children where it still can be fun besides, the acts of service that you do for them daily.
right, yeah.
I feel like, you're doing a great job. I think you know, it's tough being a working mom. You have your internship that is practically work. It just happens to be
It's work.
free.
Yeah,
And then, you have school, and as well, you have a long drive to get to school.
yeah.
I think you're doing a great job at juggling and balancing your life, trying to, be concerned with the needs of your children, the needs of your husband, what's happening in the home when you're away. And I think, Miss Beth, I think it's okay to breathe. I think that if you take one deep breath, you
So do
might,
I take the job after school or do I not?
well, Miss Beth, I can't really advise exactly which option, you go towards. I feel like with all of the thought you've put into considering what's best for you and the children, I feel like you're close to having your answer. And I feel like ultimately, Ultimately, it's going to be what best benefits you and your family. And I feel like you do prioritize your children and their well-being. And I feel like you also prioritize your education and the debt yet you mentioned that you recently, found yourself in to go to school.
Yeah, and that was known. We knew that we were going into debt to do this, and that's fine. But then, like with prices going up on food, and then like kids have a growth spurt, and they run through their shoes and put holes in their shoes and in their pants. It's easy to think that the solution is, oh, just go to work and the extra money will solve your problems. And I think that's cultural, and I feel like I have that pull, but then another part of me says, are you sure that's really the answer? I don't think that's a good idea. And yet, I do not want my mom living with me for the next 5 years so we could pay off our debt.
So
Unless other things change, who knows? I don't know. But that's what I am ambivalent about. That's what I'm not sure what I should do on.
I think it's a really tough decision because you have the consideration of your children and their well-being, then you being the nurturer versus having to provide for them as well as getting your sanctuary in your home back and
Right,
getting your peace back in your home. It sounds
right.
like your mom being added into the change and sacrifices has added an extra stressor for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, even people we love
Yes.
don't make life always easier, and even when they are our mom. But it has been a blessing. It's been a help. Don't get me wrong, and it's been we needed it. It would have been like we probably would have doubled our debt if she had not chosen to come help us out. And then I would have had to work. I wouldn't have had a choice, I don't think, with the interest rates and stuff.
I understand. It sounds like with having your mom in the home, there's been good and, some bad,
Yeah, growing pains.
growing pains. What would you say, what would you think that would happen if you were to pursue your LCSW after school and the children were in the same routine as they are now?
You know, again, if well, I don't know, because then part of me thinks a lot of it is the homework. If it was just work, and when I got home, I could let it go, then maybe that wouldn't be a big deal and I could work. But it's social work. Do you ever really let it go? I mean, yeah, we're learning to do that, but I don't let it go for real. It still um affects me emotionally and mentally. That's thing number one. And thing number two, if you're going for your LCSW, then you're still studying to pass that test. So I would still have homework. So I feel like my kids, so 2 years was going to be a chunk.
Mhm.
And to somebody who's 4 years old, 2 years is half your life. That's a long time. Um, if I went on and did it, I feel like I just don't feel like my kids would get the home environment that would balance out or mitigate or push against the things in our culture that I personally feel would be unhealthy or not good for my kids. And that's a personal preference. That's
Mm.
not everyone. But I'm in a situation, I'm in a situation where I can provide that guidance for my kids, where I don't have to make that choice. And so if I'm in that situation, do I really want to let go of that like extra benefit that I have to offer? But then is it an extra benefit if we're stressed and if they're all upset because they have to wear hand-me-downs and they don't ever get to go out to eat and they don't get to go to the movies with their friends, and like where would that balance be? Because by then their ages will be those years where they are affected by peers and what peers think of them.
So it sounds like you're really weighing out the pros and cons to your situation, whether you should work or not. It sounds like you're aware of the possible effects it may have on your children. On a 1 to 10 scale, how important is it for you to know that your children are doing well with school and their peers?
With school, like I told you before, I was a high school dropout. Educationally, when they're motivated, they're smart, they'll figure it out. So for that, I mean, if they all flunked out, I would not really, I mean, I would wonder why, but it wouldn't bother me. That's not
Okay.
my measure of success. With their peers, the concern is more like, are they gonna start doing drugs? Are they going to pick up bad habits of like stealing or bullying? Are they gonna, mistreat themselves or others and end up having life altering consequences because they had the mentality of a teenager and didn't think through the consequences, and they felt like this was how to do it, and I was not there to give them a better option or a more structured option.
That is very tough. It's a very tough perspective to put so much on you that, if you were to go work and not be home with the children, that because you weren't there, the children may turn out in a way that you would not have, like to see their lives turn out. And I feel like that's a lot of pressure that is not only on you, but on the situation of making a decision whether to work or stay at home. Do you feel like you can implement still your parenting when you're away? Do you feel like your husband follows through?
Oh, my husband is a sweetie and he does try. He's a great guy. He he's gone at work all day long. And he's always like, because he was going to school when we were first having our kids. So he is, I mean, he's always been there. He's not absent, but his experience with the kids, and how to address, like, he's never taken child development classes. He never babysat growing up. He doesn't have younger cousins or younger siblings he helped with. He doesn't have nephews or nieces that he ever helped with. So his experience is so limited, um, that he does wonderful, but no, he struggles with how, like, he sees me do it, he agrees with what I do, but he, when I'm not there, is not able, the kids don't respond to him in the same way they do me. He's a different person. He's a dad.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm sorry, I lost the question.
Okay, it was about whether or not he would follow through with the
Oh,
way
he
you
would
planned.
try. He would try. And my mom, bless her soul, she would try, but she would try in a way that I did not approve of. So, so I think honestly, and this is where the conflict I think lays in my mind. Even if I'm always a stay-at-home mom, there are still plenty of kids, like they're still an individual. So they are still going to do whatever they are going to do in life.
Mhm.
But if I were stay-at-home mom and that happened, then I feel like I would be like, but I did my best. I was there. I tried. If I went to work and it all ended up fine, I would be like, that's awesome. It all worked out. But if I went to work and even one of them ended up having severe life struggles, then I would always wonder, was it because I wasn't there when they needed me? And I know that's I say mom thought. I know that's not a necessarily logical thought, but it's not a thought that I'm gonna logic away. I like, it's an emotional thought that will stay no matter how much logic says I still did my best.
I understand, and it does sound like you again have really put the pressure on yourself of how your children turn out based off of what you do. Do you feel like the pressure you have on yourself, your husband feels?
On himself towards me?
Yes, towards the children.
No. I think in his mind, it's it's fine. Whatever happens will be fine. It'll work out eventually in the end. And I think his life experience has been different to where he thinks that, like, it would just be okay. Whereas my life experience um, has said, no, there are things that make a real difference and could have lasting consequences negatively.
So it sounds like if the children are not in your care, then there's a higher possibility that the children will possibly face adversities that will be long term and impact them for the rest of their life because you were absent, even if it was for
Yeah,
a better cause.
no, yeah. Oh, yes. And again, like I said, if it didn't go wrong, then it'd be fine. But if it did go wrong, that's what I would blame it on.
Now you mentioned that there's a and that we've discovered that there's a different thought process with you and your husband about this, and your life experiences have contributed to that way of thinking. It sounds like for your husband, him being there won't really make a difference on whether or not they turn out good or bad. He's there being present as a father, and that's just. However, your role as a mother, as the nurturer,
Nurturer.
it's so much more important because it all depends on you to make
No,
sure that the children.
I don't think it's more important. I just think it's different. Like they see him as the provider. Like, cause we acknowledge, like, because we taught the kids don't just get paid, they don't get an allowance, they have to earn it. And and they have to do a good job. And a lot of these other things. And when we discuss it with them, we explain, well, the reason we have this is because dad worked. And if dad didn't do a good job, he might get fired. Or if dad didn't go into work when he was supposed to, he might be fired. Or if his boss said to do it by this time and he didn't do it by this time, he'd be fired. Or if the boss said to do it and he sat there and whined and complained and tried to tell the boss to do it a different way, he'd be fired. So they have a very real concept, concept that even when dad's gone, he's gone to benefit the family. Um, and so
Well,
I think, but when I'm gone, I don't think they recognize that it's benefiting the family in the same way that they recognize it for him, because for him, it's been their entire life. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., dad is at work or school, whatever it happened to be at the time. Whereas for me, I did work when the kids were younger, but I worked at a preschool. I took them to work with me. Um, and then I didn't work for like 7 years.
okay.
And so they don't have those years of, in their mind, dad's job is to provide for the family and help the family and help, like he helps, he does stuff like dishes and laundry and that, but mom is
Homemaker.
the organizer, the scheduler, the planner, the keep everyone together. Like I am the nurturer in those things. And those aren't things that you do by being gone.
Hmm.
So like you can be gone and provide for the family, but can you be gone and nurture the family? I mean, yeah, it is nurturing still, but it's different. It's always been a different role. And I'm not sure that the kids would see that difference or would see how it's situational, I guess was what I'm saying.
Okay, it sounds like the change in your role from being home, a stay-at-home mom to becoming a student, it's really impacted not only the way that you think the children view you, but also how they may feel about you and what you're doing. And it sounds like it's impacted your decisions on whether or not pursuing your LCSW or going back home. Sounds like there's been a big shift, and sounds like there's concerns as to the importance and validation of what you're doing as far as going to school, furthering your education to provide for your family as well. It sounds like.
Well, I wouldn't say validation because I like we all fully agree that me going to school is valid and important. I think showing the kids that education is continual, showing the kids that everyone gets an education, showing the kids the importance of higher education. It's the work after school. How valid is that? Like, is
Well,
making more money valid? I mean, it is if you need more money, but what if you don't need more money? What if it's just nice to have more money?
Well, it kind of goes back to when you mentioned the children and clothing, and as they're getting older, that they're going to need brand new clothing. Even you mentioned that with what your husband brings home now, there's not much that can go into the savings. So it sounds like the possibility of more income would benefit your children. It would be a valid reason to go to work because they would be able to benefit from you providing as well. But not only would you be providing monetarily, but you could still provide with nurturing the family. I I see that you hold a certain structure in your home that allows your children an environment to develop and grow, especially in areas that are more realistic and lifelike, what they're going to experience once they reach of an age and decide to move out, it sounds like your job is not only nurturing the children, but preparing them for life so that they don't fail. So the fear that you have of not being present in life, struggles and adversities coming up for your children and then facing them long term. Sounds like you're setting up and preparing now for your children to avoid those. And because you're not there now and may be absent longer after you finish school, it feels like time is escaping for you to teach them and practice these things.
I do see time as very limited with kids. And actually, the more I'm talking, the more I'm thinking, money isn't really to me that valid. Maybe I should not try to work and get and it has changed because I was originally planning to get my LCSW. But yes, that is the question that's come ever since I started the internship. Do I really want my LCSW enough for it to be worth doing this for an additional 2 to 3 years?
Do you think you could gain your LCSW with a job that allowed you to work part-time while they're in school and work on your hours?
I don't know. I'm gonna look for that, and if I can, then I will. But I'm not sure anymore that it would be worth trying to if I can't.
And I've noticed you have this time frame of the LCSW being for 2 years. If this was a perfect agency and you could, negotiate your terms and they align with what you would hope to be able to, achieve and still be present for your children, would you be open to your LCSW within maybe 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you actually have to do within 3 years, or you have to start your time limit over, I thought. Maybe that's a lack of information on my part. I don't know.
And that is actually valid. You would have to do a little more research as well to see what the time limit would be. So if there is a possibility to stretch it out an extra year and still allow you to provide time to your children,
Mhm.
how would that make you feel?
It would make me feel relieved. I would feel like, okay, I can do that. And it would be nice because then there'd be a little bit extra funds to help pay off the student loans. It would be nice. And quite frankly, we're probably going to be stuck with my mom anyway. And so she would feel needed still, and that would be good for her. But I would be around more so that it would help her. I'd be around more when the kids were around. So that would be ideal. That's my hope. I guess I just gotta cross my fingers that it exists in reality.
I would hope that it does because it does sound like that would be a big help to the way that you would like to accomplish your personal goals, as well as being the mother and achieving the motherly goals that you have as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope that the session helped. I know that when we meet again, we'll continue to touch bases and see, what information you've gathered from now and then.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Thank you, Beth. Have a great day.